Welcome to Chalk Talk, a weekly preview of West Tennessee football featuring the Jackson Sun sports team here on JacksonSun.com.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Week 5 high school football edition of Chalk Talk here at JacksonSun.com. My name is Craig Thomas, this is Brandon Shields, the sports editor and high school football beat writer. Lots of cool games to look forward to here in Week 5, so we've kind of hit that midway point of the high school football season, and one big one's going to be one county to the east of us over in Lexington as the Big Red Tigers host undefeated Northside. Brandon, what are you looking for that game?
Well, this time last year, we were talking about how this was kind of a renewal of an old rivalry from probably like the 80s and 90s where they played a lot because they were in the same district or region or whatever they called them back then a lot, or they would try to schedule even if they weren't. But this last year was the first time they played, I think, since 2000. And we were talking about all the offensive weapons that both teams had in their backfield. We were expecting an offensive shootout, or at least I was expecting that. And then Northside won 13-7. There were a few injuries, particularly on Lexington's side that night that affected the production, but still, you know, they still had plenty of athletes to move the ball that did. I'm kind of in the same way that I was this time last year, expecting an offensive shootout, not another one, because 20 points isn't exactly combined in exactly a shootout. But you know, with Tylen Johnson and Tre'Kius Tisdale being back, and he's off to a pretty good start after sitting out the first couple of games, and Dylan Smith kind of making up a pretty potent backfield for Lexington. And then you got Tylen Shaw, Tadarius Wilson, Josh Avery Hart for Northside. There's plenty of weapons on both sides for them to try to move the ball and score some points. And last week Northside didn't score a lot, particularly, or they didn't score any until late in the third quarter. But as soon as they started scoring, they started putting up a lot of points. And you know, I kind of expect the same thing to happen this week if it just depends on what time or when they start scoring.
All right, up in Carroll County, there'll be a couple of small town powerhouses, I guess you might say. Camden visits Huntington at the home of the Mustangs. What are you looking for out of that game?
This is a game that could be over in about 45 minutes. Well, I guess 48 minutes in a high school football game. So I guess plus halftime it'll take about an hour. But two old rivals over on that end of our coverage area that like to play each other. Both of them just play good smash mouth, 3 yards in a cloud of dust type football. Deshaun Brown for Camden's main running back is actually Johnny Jones from Crockett County gets a lot of the talk for his rushing yardage. But looking at the stats so far for this week, Deshaun Brown is just about 30 or 40 yards behind Jones in total rushing yards. He's just got a few, only about half the touchdowns that Johnny has. So Deshaun's got a lot of ability. He's a strong kid that's hard to bring down. And so Huntington's defense is really going to be tested, particularly how young Huntington is. They're kind of a sophomore-laden group this year. But Dylan Johnson, their quarterback, has rushed for a lot of yards as well, and he could it could almost be a track meet between Brown and Johnson and see who scores more touchdowns to give their team a win.
Right here in the city, Trinity Christian will be hosting another game. Last week against Scottsdale, they kind of traded touchdowns, I guess, trade points there for a while, real close, and then all of a sudden Trinity kind of just does this thing where they'll get 2 or 3 touchdowns real quick and sort of pull away.
Kind of a story for them so far this year.
All year. They're going to have JCM visiting this week. JCM's had a couple home games turn into road games, and now this is actually a road game they're supposed to have all along. What do you think that's going to take that form again that the TCA's been having? What are you looking for out of this game?
Yeah, it's pretty much what happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
JCM stayed close, matched them score for score in the first half, and then in the second half, TCA pulled away and won 49-28. Now maybe, I guess JCM they don't have the as experienced of athletes as they had last year coming in, but we're halfway through the season, so throw the inexperience thing out the window. If I ever say inexperience again, just smack me on the back of the head or whatever. But I was about to say inexperience there, so I won't do that. I don't want to hit my head. But JCM is lacking big game experience, whereas TCA has got a ton of it. Even this season, they've had a couple of big games against Adamsville and St. George's, whereas JCM hadn't been in that environment. So this is going to be a big game, and it's going to be a close game coming down to the wire. They both won a couple of close games, but it's not going to be a defensive struggle. TCA's got the advantage when it comes offensively. The question is, can this defense stop Kyle Aiken and his stable of about 17 receivers that he throws it to, and all have caught for at least 300 or 400 yards halfway through the year.
All right. Well, you can decide what the best game this week is, but the first game, no doubt about it, it's Milan CPA. We're filming this on Tuesday, but the Thursday game at Milan as they host Christ Presbyterian Academy, a team they have seen before, a team they've played in the playoffs, and a team that is pretty strong as far as Middle Tennessee goes. What do you think might happen up in Milan?
Well, Milan's coming in the underdogs because CPA is not only coming in undefeated, they're coming in not even challenged. Kind of how Union City is kind of rolling over everybody. Their closest opponents, I think, was Huntington, beating them 35-7. CPA's closest opponent, I think, was 31 points. And that includes Class 4A state runner-up last year, Giles County. So they're kind of rolling along, and the question is Milan good enough to maybe not even put up a wall on the road that they're rolling on, just be a speed bump. And Milan's had their 2 losses, the teams that beat them are still undefeated halfway through the season. So it's not like Milan's just coming in looking like chopped liver. They got some good players now. They are having to try to figure out how to replace injured quarterback Marshall Harrison, who broke his leg, and he's that was a compound fracture, kind of like a Joe Theismann type deal. He's out for the year, and best wishes to him in recovering from that. So they're trying to figure out, the young man that they're going to put in there in his place. He's got the ability to do. He's got the physical tools, but he doesn't have the experience, and you never know how he's going to react once he gets in the situation. And his first situation is against probably the best, or one of the top 2 or 3 best teams in the state in Class 3A. So I don't want to say that Milan's game hinges on that, but it is going to be an important part.
All right, Haywood had a late off-season schedule change, so for Week 5 they're going to be headed pretty far out of town, headed to out of state, in fact, Muscle Shoals, Alabama. What are you expecting for Haywood down there? What should we look for?
Well, Muscle Shoals was one of the better teams, not only in their class, but in the entire state of Alabama last year. They had a lot of blue chip athletes. I think 2 or 3 went to like Alabama and Auburn last year off their team. They're not quite as good as they were last year. I think they were undefeated going into the Class 5A state championship game last year, where they lost and finished second in the state. So coming in, they're 2-2 with losses to another 5A team who continually or perennially competes for a state championship, and then a pretty good 6A program in Florence High School. Haywood's going to be at a disadvantage. If for nothing else, you're going to be traveling on a bus for 2 or 3 hours, and then get off, try to stretch, and go play this football game, and then get back and knowing you're going to have a 3-hour ride back home tonight. But I think, they've got athletes. We say this every week about them. Haywood's got athletes. You got Emmett Gooden, Will Austin, and good players on both sides of the ball that surround these guys that can be key role players that can help them out. And the question is, can they stay focused on the task at hand, play 4 quarters, and give Muscle Shoals a game? And I think they are good enough to give them a game, but they're going to have to play their best to come out of there with a win.
All right, busy week of high school football ahead. Just kind of setting a schedule for you on Thursdays. We mentioned Milan has a CPA game. I guess you'll be at that game reporting from that. Then Friday morning, make sure you get the paper, read about that how Milan did against CPA, but also check out the Friday morning blitz. We kind of look ahead to all the other games involving teams in the Jackson Suns coverage area. Just kind of, I guess, the least you need to know before you go out to the game of your choice Friday night. We'll have reporters and photographers at several of these city and regional games. Definitely something you want to keep an eye on, the stories, the photos, the videos that'll be coming out of those games. Lots of good stuff we have every Friday night, and then Saturday morning, a lot of that same stuff in the print edition as well, and maybe a handful of other things, throughout the state. So make sure to keep an eye on that. Brandon, anything else you'd like to add?
Good luck to your team, and have fun this week to the teams that are playing. There are a lot of teams that are off this week, taking their bye week in Week 5. So getting ready to start up the second half. And in Wednesday's paper, we had the mid-season report, mid-season review. You might want to see if y'all can find a back copy of that one and go back and look at that one you thought it was interesting when you
Yeah,
read it.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So
That's good.
if you're out at the games Friday, say hi, and we hope you have a great week.
See ya.